Coming up on this edition of Able Then On Air, we talked to Shekeh Musa Drammeh about fire and prevention. We also talked to him about fires in the Bronx and many other incidents as well. And we also bring everybody up to date on the California emergency fires and incidents, all that and much more on Able Then On Air, which starts right now. Welcome to this edition of Able Then On Air, the one and only program that focuses on the needs, concerns, and achievements of the differently abled, and we focus on abilities despite disabilities. I'm Lawrence Seiler. On this important show today, we talked to Shekeh Musa Drammeh from the Bronx about fires and incidents and many other things. Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Able Then On Air.
Thank you, my friend, Larry. Thank you for having me. Happy to all your audience.
Okay, so can you bring me up to date of what's going on in the Bronx with all these fires and incidents and any other things you would like to bring up? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Larry, as you are aware, about 2-3 years ago, one of the worst fire tragedy in New York City history took place in the Bronx, where 17 innocent Bronxites, among them 2-year-olds, perished, through a fire that should have been prevented, but unfortunately, is too common for Bronxites to either lose life or lose property due to preventable, negligible fire. And so,
when you say negligible, sorry for interrupting, most of this is people's fault or management, or is it the heaters they're using? What exactly is going on?
Yeah, both all around, but most importantly, most Bronxites, over 85% or 80% of Bronxites are renters. They're not occupants. So, and a big chunk of this renting population happen to be on the lower income, spectrum. So, meaning that you have a lot of poor people in various housing developments. And most of, if not all, the landlords are absentee landlords. Landlords who, saw a beautiful market of renters and government subsidized programs with a lot of poor people who do not have lawyers and, the necessary access to, equitable treatment, and take advantage of it. So the negligible landlords cause more death and harm than even the residents that may not know what to do, in difficult times. Now, but the last fire that took the 17 lives was organized in a way that we deliberately made it public. We deliberately brought the bodies in a masjid, inside the mosque, and then we allowed the media to go inside the mosque unfettered and then saw live 15 caskets, among them 2-year-olds. The message was, this happens because these victims live in the Bronx. They lived in the Bronx. These victims should not have died. But what does the heck?
Excuse me.
Negligence.
Yeah.
Because of that, so many elected officials realize that, well, it is time to do the right thing, because.
But what does living? I'm sorry for interrupting. But what does what the heck does? And I'm not cursing here, or anything. But what the heck does living in the Bronx have to do? I mean, a fire is a fire. It's a tragedy. It's horrible. It has nothing to do with social, economic situations or being black, purple, green, pine. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter on your skin color. It doesn't matter. What does that have to do with it?
Larry, it shouldn't matter, but it does matter because most of these fires are caused by plugging external heating units that unfortunately sometimes overheated, sometimes malfunction, and sometimes are not suitable, for the type of electrical system that exists. So because these landlords are absentee landlords, they do not really care about the public safety or the quality of life of the residents in their buildings, because to them, as long as there's a minimal work done to get their rent paid on time, then that's fine. But what I was saying is that after the last fire, where these elected officials were exposed to the tragedy, to the real tragedy, not something they read the number 17, 20, whatever, but they see the bodies and the casket. These elected officials said, you know what, it's time to do the right thing. And from that fire until now, there has been so many beneficial legislative bills now in place that protect tenants and protected the public. And unfortunately, it had to take such tragedy, to wake the hell out of these elected officials and others. But now they're doing the right thing. And I believe that more Bronxites, are benefiting from the work that followed after the last fire tragedy. Now, in terms of the, let's say the tenants themselves, unfortunately, because of their restricted, or limited resources, they resort to buying all these cheap, appliances that, should never ever be used in the first place. But even when they're in use, they should be plug in and plug out. But a lot of times, because they want, the heat to continue on, and then they keep this heat, run long after, they should have been taken off. And unfortunately, when things are overheated, unfortunately, they cause fire. And a lot of these people, when there's a fire and, they're frantic, running, they leave all these doors open, windows open, and the fire gets all over the place. So there are a lot of education that need to be had. The fire department has been doing a great job in terms of educating the public fire safety. But, it needs to be regular, consistent, and universal in the Bronx and throughout New York. Because this time, unfortunately, is time where a lot of fires, have been taking place. A couple of days ago, there was a big fire on Allerton section. Thank God nobody died, but over 200 people were displaced, and a lot of destruction on those buildings. So, we need to bring the Bronx economic situation a lot better, so that the tenants who are over 80% of Bronxites would not have to resort to plugging heaters that should not be plugged in. They should have equitable heating system, so that the same absentee landlord environment where they live, I guarantee you, not a single absentee landlord lives in a neighborhood or building or area where they have heating problem. None. They live in an upper class, well, designed, well maintained, well secure places, but yet their buildings are right here in the Bronx, and their tenants are dying and losing their belongings through fire because of negligence. So we need to change that.
I wanted to give you some numbers here, if I may. According to California, this website, this is an important website, www.fire.ca.gov/incidents. Recently, there's been a lot of California fires. I know you're talking about the Bronx, and we're also talking about California, but according to this, and the current situation: 24,419 total emergency responses by emergency personnel, 153 wildfires, 40,660 acres burned, 24 fatalities, 12,300 plus structures destroyed, which includes damage assessments that are underway in the Palisades and Eaton fires, Eaton. And according to this graph, the Palisades fire in Los Angeles, which happened on January 7th of this year, 23,713 acres were burned and a 19% containment. The Eaton fire, 14,117, 45% containment. The Hearst fire is almost 95% containment, 799 acres. And then there's a place called Auto, which is, or if it's an auto fire, 60, which deals with 61 acres and 47% containment. And if you want information on this, you can go to www.fire.ca.gov/incidents. Fires are happening all over the place. I mean, forests are being burned. Landlords are being blamed for a lot of things. Don't use a portable heater. They're just not good. But how can we advocate for landlords to fix heating systems, to not charge a lot of rent for people who really need it? I mean, hotels, for example, hotels are not plentiful, and you can't stay in a hotel too long. So how do you? And I know the American Red Cross does help people in hotels during fire, but how do we advocate to landlords and tell them to give people adequate housing?
Yes. Larry, I just want to, I feel, we all feel bad, extremely bad and in pain, what is happening in California. It is very, very tragic, very painful. But it is the opposite of what happened in the Bronx. You see, in the Bronx, you have negligible absentee landlords who do not give a banana, to the life and dignity and the safety of their tenants. All they care about is getting more money, getting more government subsidy check, and that's it. So now you're dealing with poor Bronxites who are renting from these absentee landlords. All right, that is the reality in the Bronx. That's why they're plugging all these cheap, electrical, units, heating system, whatever. That's completely different from now what is happening in California. Now in California, on the other hand, you have, because LA, just like New York, there are some areas where a lot of people that are well-to-do, have money and power and prestige would not live. So therefore, they now move to these areas, highly, perhaps restricted, gated areas. But unfortunately, I think California's situation is about leadership. I think it's a leadership failure, because they know exactly the environment in which these houses existed. They know the danger posed by brush fires. And if they have not done what needed to be done, that is a political failure. This is different from poor people, no access to power, no access to lobbying, but have to have some type of heat plugging external thing. This is completely different.
Now,
so
can
California,
yeah.
California, we need leadership. And
now,
in the Bronx, we need a fair and equitable treatment.
Could you describe for our viewers, for those that don't know what a portable heater is, what exactly is a portable heater? For those that don't know, I
A
don't have.
portable,
Yeah.
a portable heater is any heating unit that can be plugged into any outlet and moved to any room. Completely different from, the attachment to the property is any type of heating unit that is attached to the property that cannot be considered portable unit. So if you go to all these stores, before the winter come, they have so many different heaters. By the way, most of them come from China, cheap but not good, not quality. They cause more problem than other high quality product. And anything that you can buy externally and plug into different rooms, that is considered portable heating unit, no matter what it looks like.
Okay. So is it a small unit? Is it a large unit?
It doesn't matter. But definitely they're movable, they're carryable, they can be moved from place to a place. They cannot be very heavy or very big.
Now, I know years ago, I remember living in Brooklyn. Years ago, old landlords had these old radiators.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm talking about. They look like
Yeah.
they're metal,
Yeah.
and they have to be out or not working anymore, and they have to upgrade. I mean, can fires be preventable? Of course they can, but why are landlords so negligent when it comes to stuff? You think?
No. This is all about greed. You see, it's all about greed. Right now, technology allows us, to build homes and buildings with some of the most efficient systems, whether it is a cooling or heating, without jeopardizing the lives of the occupants. It is all about greed, it's all about fairness, and it's all about committing crime because you can commit a crime. So the reason why a lot of homes are, moving away from those type of heating units, those heating units used to hurt a lot of children because they can be very, very hot. And if you have children in the room, they touch everything and they can die or get burned. That's why now, even if you have it in the home, there's a requirement where you cover it, where you cover it without being accessible, by hands and by children. But, whatever system that can be used, right now we should not be dying or we should not be losing our homes because we need, to put external heating unit just to survive. So we have the know-how and we have the ability and we have homes that have been retrofitted with perfect heating unit, and those homes who occupy them, these absentee landlords. You go to their homes, you will not worry about heating or cooling. I guarantee you that. Every single thing is done, the way they must be done, and comfort, safety, and quality. The only thing that we need to do is we bring every landlord, to a position where if you violate the safety of your tenants, you will pay the price, including losing your own building. By the way, let me add this. Let me add this. We recently launched what we call Bronze Economic Revolution, and one of the components of our revolution is we want the tenants from these absentee landlords to organize and form tenant association to take over the buildings. We're not saying you come and take over the building illegally. Let's assess the value of the building. Let's say if the building is $25 million, let's offer the owner $30 million or $32 million, and then let the government provide, the funds so that these tenants become condo or co-op owners. Once they become owners, they will take care of the building, they will take care of the neighborhood, they will take care of public safety, they will take care of quality of life, and they will have more money to send their children to schools and college, and the economic condition of the Bronx will completely change. The public safety will change, and the danger posed by this absentee landlord will no longer be the case. And that is part of our Bronx economic revolution, items. We want everybody to organize within their building so that they can take over the building and convert it. Because we cannot build sustainable economic viability in the Bronx if 80% of the Bronx sites are renters.
Will they have to up the rent? Can we make sure, or is there a way to make sure that people's rent are not put up because they're putting new equipment in? Go ahead.
No, no. What happened is this. What happened is the rent has already been up. It doesn't matter where you live. Right now, everywhere you live, the rent is way what it should be. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two, the government subsidy for these apartments is so high that they are higher than what the apartments are worth. So no landlord should ever be able to use economic challenge for leaving their tenants vulnerable. Because whatever rent they're getting is a lot more than the market value. Because rent is so high, especially in many parts of New York. Nobody can use the rent problem, for inefficiency or not having the equipment that are.
So let's move away. Let's move away from fire, but it's very important. The New York City Housing Authority, okay, it is so behind the times still. And for example, you can't even I'm talking about New York City Housing Authority. You can't even walk in an elevator and you're not safe. You know what I mean? Bad security cameras, bad equipment, different things like that. And who's at fault there? As far as New York City Housing Authority is concerned. And people are forced to live in very bad conditions. Rats, cockroaches, different things like that. You care to comment on deplorable housing in New York? Go ahead. It's important. Yes. It's important to talk about also.
Absolutely. NYCHA, New York Housing Authority, has been deemed one of the worst landlords actually in the country.
And we will not get in trouble on this show. Go ahead.
Yes, and for the same reason that these absentee landlords, the same crime that these absentee landlords are have been committing is the same thing with NYCHA. You have families, hardworking families with children, playing by the rules, doing everything, working hard, with various, sectors in our economy. But yet, the way NYCHA allowed them to live with leaking roofs and rodents and, malfunctioning electricities and
malfunctioning security doors. Don't forget that.
Exactly. So with all these things, because of their income level or because of the zip code where these buildings are, this would be illegal. And I think the tenants, by the way, the tenants have been doing a great job of advocacy, but I think more advocacy need to be done.
And by the way, don't forget elevators that smell like urine. That's exactly. Another thing.
A lot of times, you have disabled or differently, able individuals with malfunctioning elevators. And you have some older people, some pregnant people, people who cannot walk up, stairs, are, locked up in their rooms, they cannot move anywhere else. And not everybody have home mate and roommates and, home attendants. So anyway, we can talk about NYCHA for so long. But I also want to, because it's a two sides to the coin. NYCHA is a failure in terms of the way they keep the buildings, but also the residents. You see, if you do not have strict rules that you can enforce, you have highly irresponsible tenants that don't care about safety, cleanliness, or their neighborly right. They do all kinds of things, loud music, garbage everywhere, smoking, sometimes drug dealing, gang banging, so many things that, and unfortunately, makes their neighborhoods so, difficult to live and makes their neighbors hostage, in their own buildings. So both the government need to, turn the volume up in terms of being responsible for safe and conducive homes, but at the same time, nature rules and regulations must be so strict that a lot of these things will never ever be tolerated, so that, whether you live in so-called high-class neighborhoods or whether you live in nature, the quality of life should always, be conducive, should always be admirable, because they are poor or because of this, should never ever earn them, being hostage in their own building. So it's both sides, both the tenants and the government, need to do the right thing if Niger is to be continued. If not, let's convert Niger into cooperation so that the tenants own their apartments and they'll be more responsible.
Well, what is the future of what do you think the future might be for advocacy for, certain equipment in housing, and is this a never-ending battle? I mean, are people going to win this, or is this a constant? I mean, especially now because we're going to be going into a new administration again. But are things really going to change?
Yeah, change comes. Change comes. Advocacy will always be part of human nature, because unfortunately, we are creatures of greed. We are creatures of sometimes unjust and unfair and selfishness. Mm-hmm. And therefore, whenever we have the chance, to display these imperfectness, we always display them. If you give us a chance to be greedy, we will be greedy. All these things. So therefore, they always righteously guided individuals that will always be on the right side of history. And these are so-called community organizers and community activists. They always a need for fight for justice, for fight for equality, for fight for fair treatment, and for fight for dignity of others. So that, I don't ever think that will ever go away, because it is a human nature. However, there always improvement made after tragedy. As I said, right now in the Bronx, there are a lot of laws about housing and tenancy that were not in place prior to the 2020 fire. So there have been changes, slow but progressively making improvement in the conditions that had put people in a very, very dangerous situation.
For example, what are some of the laws before we end?
Yeah, there's some of the laws. For example, the self-closing doors. That's one of the things. So, when people open the door and leave, whether they close it or not, the door must be self-closing doors. And that's it. And also the heating units that people usually buy, now the government mandated them to have thermometers where when it gets to certain things, they automatically shut off. So there are many other, requirements, window guards, and all these things that have now been, laws to protect the tenants that were not the case before.
Well, I would like to thank you for joining me on this edition of Able Done on Air. Shekeh Musa Drammeh from the Parkchester Times and the Muslim Media Corporation. We spoke about fires today and prevention and other things within landlord, things with advocacy and tenants. For more information on anything that you've heard today, especially with the California fires, you can go to www.fire.ca That's fire.ca.gov/incidents. And you can also contact the American Red Cross by contacting www.americanredcross.org. And for more information on the Parkchester Times, you can go to www.parkchestertimes. Is it .org or .com for Parkchester?
.com.
So it's www.parkchestertimes.com, and I'm also a contributor with the Parkchester Times and many other newspapers within the New York Parrot. You can contact them at www.newyorkparrot.com. And thank you very much for joining me, Shekeh Musa Drammeh from the Parkchester Times and New York Parrot. Thank you so much for your leadership in the Bronx.
Thank you, Larry. It's my pleasure being here anytime.
Okay. For more information on Orca Media and what you've seen today on Ableton On Air, you can go to www.orcamedia.net. I'm Lawrence Seiler. See you next time on the next edition of Ableton On Air.